Alright guys, welcome back to class. It's October 9th, and I'm sorry I can't be there today, but this is our agenda for today. We're going to start with grammar, then we're going to do a little bit of vocabulary practice, go over short answer, read the review you picked up on your way inside, An Uncomfortable Bed, and then you have time to work on that review packet that you picked up last time, and then if there's still time left at the end, you get the opportunity to listen to the figurative language mashup you heard next door last class. Alright? So let's go ahead and get started with grammar. You need to turn to the blue tab of your notebook. On page 70B, you'll have Grammar Day 2 Practice. So that should look like this. Grammar Day 2 Practice. Day 2 Parts of Speech Review. Go ahead and get there. When you do, what you're going to be doing is labeling the underlined part of speech in each quote from The Most Dangerous Game. So we've done this, a similar lesson, a couple of times. So go ahead and give it a shot. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. Hit pause in the video and then we'll come back. Alright, so if we look at this first part, we have the world is made up of two classes, the hunters and the huntees. Luckily, you and I are hunters. Do you think we've passed that island yet? What would these words be? We have it ends in an ly, and we have a time word. So these would be adverbs. Alright. For number 2, it says, I can't tell in the dark. I hope so. In. Again, it fits with the airplane in the cloud, or the airplane flies blank through the cloud. The airplane flies in the cloud, through the cloud. So it is a preposition. Number 3 says, hardly, even cannibals wouldn't live in such a godforsaken place, but it's gotten into sailor lore, somehow. Didn't you notice that the crew's nerves seemed a bit jumpy today? So you have hardly, ends in an ly, would not, this is a negative, didn't, this nt is short for not, right? So it's a negative, and a bit is describing how jumpy, which is describing an adjective. So again, all of these are going to be adverbs. On number 4, it says, they were a bit strange, now you mention it, even Captain Nielsen. Again, we have describing an adjective, strange, and we have a time word, so these are going to be adverbs. Number 5 says, then he said to me, very gravely, don't you feel anything? These would be pronouns, because they are taking the place of a noun, right? 6. Now you mustn't laugh when I tell you this. I did feel something like a sudden chill. These would be actions. These are verbs. 7. There was no breeze. The sea was as flat as a plate of glass. Window. We were drawing near the island then. What I felt was a mental chill, a sort of sudden dread. So here we have breeze, sea, window, island, chill, sort, dread. These are all nouns, person, place, thing, or idea. Our last one here, number 8, says, one superstitious sailor contained the whole ship's company with his fear. Here, one and superstitious are describing sailor. Ships is describing whose company, so it's describing company, and his is describing fear. So all of these would be adjectives because they're all describing a noun. Awesome. Go ahead and close your grammar section of your notebook. And we're done with this. So we can move on to vocabulary, page 27, numbers 1 through 10. So everybody turn to the pink tab of your notebook. You should be on page 37. Be on page 37 of your notebook. Then let's have everybody go ahead and get up and get one of the vocabulary books. Take about 10 minutes to answer these questions to the best of your ability, and then we'll go over them. Please hit pause in the video, and when you're done, the key to the vocabulary questions is sitting on my desk, so you can just go over that with the students. Alright, at this point, please drop off your vocabulary books and pick up one glue. Drop off your vocabulary books and pick up one glue. Now we're going to be working with that short answer rubric that you guys all picked up on your way inside. It's the one that's split into 4 pieces. So let's go to the reading section of your notebook. That is the green tab. It says reading. We have all these things listed. You're going to add these last 2 here. We have on page 9, you're going to add the short answer rubric. And on page 9B, you're going to add an uncomfortable bed short answer. So write 9, short answer rubric, 9B, an uncomfortable bed short answer. Alright, so we've written a short answer before, but we haven't really looked into the rubric in very much detail. So go ahead and turn to 9, and you can go and you can glue it in right away because we are not really going to be writing anything on this today. But write short answer rubric at the top. It's on page 9. I just want to briefly talk to you about the rubric. A score point 0, we know we don't want. That's the lowest grade you can get. You get for answering the wrong question, if the idea is incorrect because it is not based on the text, so your answer has no merit, there's no evidence for it. If your idea is too general, vague, or unclear, so the person reading your test or reading your answer can't tell what the answer is trying to say. Or if no idea is present. Ideas cannot echo the text evidence. So if you say that Madame Loisel is selfish because the book says, and you give me a quote, then that's when you're giving the text evidence as your idea rather than your own original idea. So that's a 0. We go on to a 1. A 1, remember, on page 4 of our notes, we also, in reading, we also have that breakdown with the first box is a 1, the second box is a 2, and the first, second, and third box altogether is a 3. So you can flip back and forth if you want to. But a 2 is partially sufficient. So that means it has one of the following characteristics. Either the idea is reasonable, but there's no text evidence. So if you have a great reason, great answer, but you don't have proof for it. Or if the idea is reasonable, but the text evidence is flawed. So if you refer to the text, but you don't give me a specific quote, that's going to be a 1. If your quote doesn't actually support your answer, if it's a little bit unrelated or it's too general, that's the same thing here, weakly linked to the idea. If it's used inappropriately because it manipulates the meaning of the text, so that would mean that you're not really understanding what the text is saying, so you use it as support, but it's not what it was trying to mean, so that won't count. Or the idea needs more explanation or specificity, and so that means that your idea is just not very clear. Right now it's very vague, very open. You need to get more specific about your answer. Or if the idea represents a literal meaning of the text. So you're not getting a little bit deeper into the story. It's very, very, very surface level. That could be a 1. To get a 2, that's what we call pretty average. You've achieved the basics of what you have to achieve, but it's not great. So if you get a 2, then the idea is reasonable and goes beyond the literal reading of the text. It is explained specifically to show appropriate connections across the text with valid conclusions. So it has what it has to have. It has all the basic pieces. The text evidence is accurate and relevant, so you have evidence right here, and it does support your argument. The idea and the text evidence are clearly linked, so I can tell when I look at your text that it supports your answer and your reason, your idea. And the combination of your idea and text evidence demonstrates a good understanding of the text. The whole purpose of the short answer is for you to demonstrate how well you understand the story that we're reading. So if I can't tell that you understood the story based on your response, if it sounds like you misunderstood any part of it, then you can't earn up to a 2. Okay? Finally, a score point 3. Some of you are ready for this, and so definitely cue in right now and focus on adding these things. A 3 is called an accomplished reading performance or exemplary response. Responses have the following characteristics. The idea is perceptive and reflects awareness of the complexities of the text. The student is able to develop a coherent explanation of the idea by making discerning connections across the text. So you're able to use a lot of different details from the story to all contribute to one argument. So rather than just having one little piece of proof or one reason, you have sufficient reasons to make your statement. Text evidence is specific and well chosen. It strongly supports the validity of the idea. So it's not just a little bit connected, it's very clear what you're trying to say, and it supports your inference. And then the combination of the idea and text evidence demonstrates deep understanding of the text. So it has to be very obvious that you not only understand the surface level of the text, but you understand all of the details. So that should be glued into your notebook. As soon as it is, I want you to turn the page to 9B, and we're going to create a box for your short answer. So we're done with that. And on 9B, you're going to write this, An Uncomfortable Bed by Guy de Maupassant. So here is our question. It says, how would you describe the narrator in An Uncomfortable Bed? And then I want you to make this short answer box. So you're just going to count down 10 lines, and you're going to draw the box for your short answer. So at the top, how would you describe the narrator in An Uncomfortable Bed? And then here's some room for you to brainstorm while you're coming up with your answer. And then later we're going to put your answer into this lovely box. Alright. Alright, so now we are going to take out that story that you picked up on your way inside called An Uncomfortable Bed. And we will read that. After we get to read it, you will answer that short answer. Then you'll answer the questions in the back of the packet. And when you're finished with that, then you can close up the rest of your stuff and work on the review. So let's go ahead and we'll read that together. An Uncomfortable Bed by Guy de Maupassant, which says, One autumn I went to spend the hunting season with some friends in a chateau in Picardy. My friends were fond of practical jokes. I did not care to know people who were not. When I arrived, they gave me a princely reception, which at once awakened suspicion in my mind. They fired off rifles, embraced me, and made much of me as if they expected to have great fun at my expense. I said to myself, Look out, old ferret! They have something in store for you. During the dinner, the mirth was excessive, exaggerated, in fact. I thought, Here are people who have more than their share of amusement, and apparently without reason. They must have planned some good joke. Assuredly, I am to be the victim of the joke. Attention! During the entire evening, everyone laughed in an exaggerated fashion. I scented a practical joke in the air, as a dog scents game. But what was it? I was watchful, restless. I did not let a word or a meaning or a gesture escape me. Everyone seemed to me an object of suspicion, and I even looked distrustfully at the faces of the servants. The hour struck for retiring, and the whole household came to escort me to my room. Why? They called to me, Good night! I entered the apartment, shut the door, and remained standing, without moving a single step, holding the wax candle in my hand. I heard laughter and whispering in the corridor. Without doubt, they were spying on me. I cast a glance around the walls, the furniture, the ceiling, the hangings, the floor. I saw nothing to justify suspicion. I heard persons moving about outside my door. I had no doubt they were looking through the keyhole. An idea came into my head. My candle may suddenly go out, and leave me in darkness. Then I went across to the mantelpiece and lighted all the wax candles that were on it. After that I cast another glance around me without discovering anything. I advanced with short steps, carefully examining the apartment. Nothing. I inspected every article, one after the other. Still nothing. I went over to the window. The shutters, large wooden shutters, were open. I shut them with great care, and then drew the curtains, enormous velvet curtains, and I placed a chair in front of them, so as to have nothing to fear from outside. Then I cautiously sat down. The armchair was solid. I did not venture to get into the bed. However, the night was advancing, and I ended by coming to the conclusion that I was foolish. If they were spying on me, as I supposed they must, while waiting for the success of the joke they had been preparing for me, had been laughing immoderately at my terror, so I made up my mind to go to bed. But the bed was particularly suspicious looking. I pulled at the curtains. They seemed to be secure. All the same, there was danger. I was going perhaps to receive a cold shower bath from overhead, or perhaps the moment I stretched myself out to find myself sinking to the floor with my mattress. I searched in my memory for all the practical jokes of which I ever had experience, and I did not want to be caught. Ah, certainly not, certainly not. Then I suddenly bethought myself of a precaution which I considered ensured safety. I caught hold of the side of the mattress gingerly, and very slowly drew it toward me. It came away, followed by the sheet and the rest of the bedclothes. I dragged all these objects into the very middle of the room, facing the entrance door. I made my bed over again as best I could, at some distance from the suspected bedstead in the corner which had filled me with such anxiety. Then I extinguished all the candles, and groping my way, I slipped under the bedclothes. For at least another hour I remained awake, starting at the slightest sound. Everything seemed quiet in the chateau. I fell asleep. I must have been in a deep sleep for a long time, but all of a sudden I was awakened with a start by the fall of a heavy body tumbling right on top of my own, and at the same time I received on my face, on my neck, and on my chest a burning liquid which made me utter a howl of pain, and a dreadful noise, as if a sideboard laden with plates and dishes had fallen down, almost deafened me. I was smothering beneath the weight that was crushing me and preventing me from moving. I stretched out my hand to find out what was the nature of this object. I felt a face, a nose and whiskers. Then, with all my strength, I launched out a blow over this face. But I immediately received a hail of cuffings which made me jump straight out of the soaked sheets and rush in my nightshirt into the corridor, the door of which I found open. Oh, heavens! It was broad daylight. The noise brought my friends hurrying into the apartment, and we found, sprawling over my improvised bed, the dismayed valet, who, while bringing me my morning cup of tea, had tripped over this obstacle in the middle of the floor and fallen on his stomach, spilling my breakfast over my face in spite of himself. The precautions I had taken in closing the shutters and going to sleep in the middle of the room had only brought about the practical joke I had been trying to avoid. Oh, how they all laughed that day. An Uncomfortable Bed by Guy de Maupassant. Alright, so now we have finished reading the story. Your responsibility is to answer the short answer and then go back and answer the questions. As you are answering these questions, make sure that you're marking these up like we've talked about in the past. So first you need to mark up the important words, and if there's a specific paragraph or a specific part of the story that any of them are referring back to, make sure that you go back. So paragraph 3, paragraph 5, paragraph 6, paragraph 7, make sure you know where those are found so that you can best understand what they're trying to say in that part. So go ahead and complete that. When you are done, I'm going to go ahead and give you the directions. After everyone's finished and you have shown the substitute that you are or that your assignments are complete, then we'll move on to review work time. So we picked up this review last class. It's the one that looks like this. So it says 9 weeks exam review, and you have all the terms that are going to be on the test on the left side, and you need to use your notebook to find all of the definitions. There are 3 words that, remember, they don't have the definition in our book. That's connotation and reliable narrator and unreliable narrator, and those you'll have to look up at home when you have a computer or phone, and you can look them up on Google. Okay, so make sure that you fill those notes in. This is due on the exam day, so you need to have it ready by that point. And then if you guys are awesome and you're all focused, then you will get to listen to the figurative language mashup, which is a mix of somewhat popular songs, and it tells you what figurative language is being used in each one, and you can listen to that while you work. Awesome. I will see you guys next class.